Hey, everybody. A subscriber to this channel actually sent me a reference image she found on the internet and was asking, how the heck do they do that? Is that possible in Photoshop? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to actually take an image and we're going to be working with textures and clipping masks. And I know she doesn't understand the concept of clipping masks because she said that in the response email that she sent me. So we're going to do something that looks like this right here, or an image that's just a variation that looks like this right here, or you can even push yourself into black and white and come up with something that looks like this. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to this channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. Okay, this came from Christina, and Christina, I'm not using her last name because she didn't give me permission. So again, if you guys email me privately, email address is right here at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the show notes. It's stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. I don't create a mailing list, so don't worry about you thinking I'm going to be selling your emails to some other outfit or whatever. I'm not doing that, trust me. But the question was, she sent me a sample image that she found on the internet and was curious on how to work with that. And basically, it comes down to working with textures along with clipping masks. And she didn't understand the concept of clipping masks and the way it works. So I'm going to work with those two here today. And the other thing I want to share with you is I've got a backlog of suggestions from other people, and I'm trying to get caught up, and I'm trying to cherry pick the ones that I think most people would benefit from. And so this was asked almost like a month and a half ago. I've got one that, if you're listening, something that has to do with reflections. I'm probably not going to be able to get to that till sometime in June. Also, I've got somebody that asked about a Polaroid emulsion technique, and that's another one I'm going to get. I got to get to in June. The problem is right now I have to record some things in advance because I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks traveling. I'll be gone the last week of May and the first week of June. So trying to push myself ahead of time here on different things. So I just want to give you that heads up on that. Okay, let's get into the program and let's start out with the way I like to start. If it's a project that I know that I'm going to print versus if I'm not going to print and it's just going to be for social media, then the way I start out will be slightly different. And that means I'm always going to start with the end in mind first. So what does that mean? Okay, so let's jump into Photoshop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the File drop-down menu, and I'm going to choose New. Now, if I'm thinking, okay, this is something I'm going to create and want to print, then I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say, okay, I want the width of this to be 8 inches by 12 inches, and I want the resolution to be 300. That's what I want as my starting point. If I know I'm not going to do that, and I just, hey, this is for social media, I could care less, I'm never going to print this, then the dimensions are going to be much smaller and the resolution probably, I'm just going to drop it down to 100. There's no sense having something high res if you're not going to print. So I always want to start with the end in mind first. I never want to start low and then have to worry about sampling up to print something. So if I know I'm going to print, I'm going to start out with that first. So I'm going to choose Create. And that's my starting point right there. Now, I need some assets to work with. So what I'm going to do is go to the Open dialog box. So I'm just going to do Control-O or Command-O on a Mac to get to that. And these are stock images I've used in the past. So I'm going to use that right there and that right there. And then I've got a clipping mask. And usually your clipping masks are in two formats. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's either a TIFF file or a PNG file format, never a JPEG. And the reason it's going to be a TIFF or PNG is if you look at the outer edge here, which later I'll zoom in on, it's transparent. If that was a JPEG, it would be white and I wouldn't have that transparency in my artwork and stuff. Then I've got a couple textures there and right there that I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to select all of them and then select Open in the dialog box. So let all of those open up. And now this is where you just start making decisions. And that is, this is the untitled document, so I'm not going to worry about saving that, but this is my project. So what I want to do is bring in a base image, my background, and it's usually going to be a texture. So the texture I'm going to use here is, remember, I'm going to use a parchment paper. So I'm just going to go here, click and drag, go to my project, drop it in. Excuse me. Control T, Command T on a Mac. I'm going to go to the outer corner here and just click and drag to rotate that and have it fit in there. Oh, I got lucky. Perfect fit. If not, I would, change the aspect ratio. I do want to see all the outer area, the edges of this parchment paper. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do, and this is where you start getting creative. I'm going to add a base image. And since I've got this image here, and then where is the other image? This image there, I think I'm going to use that as my base image in the background. So I'm going to do this again, select this, click and drag it to my project, drop it in, Control T, Command T on a Mac, resize it. And I want to fill up the whole thing. Now if I'm using this as a backdrop, let me just do this, just to pretend. Let's say it didn't fit. It's like, okay, I want this much. It's probably okay to hold the Shift key down to stretch it out because we're using it as a backdrop and people would not know that you did what I just did right here. Enter on the keyboard. Now what I'm going to do is this is the part of the creative process. There's no right or wrong. I want to give you options on what to do. So Christine, if you're watching this, there's blending modes. As I hover over this, you can see what it's doing. You want to pick the appropriate blending mode based on what you like. Don't do what I like, okay? Doesn't mean you can't do what I do, but I want to make sure you have options and choices. So I might just choose, let's go with overlay, but then again, I might say, hey, that's too much intense for me, so I'm going to pull the opacity down a little bit. And again, these are all, judgment calls by you. So that could be my starting point as my base image along with that parchment paper texture and stuff. So let me go back over to, let me actually do this. I don't need that parchment paper, so let's close out of that. And I might use that. I don't need this image because I already used it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the clipping mask and I'm going to explain what this is. But if we take a look at this, let me zoom in here. You can see the checkerboard pattern right there. That means this is a transparency. If this was a PNG file I brought in, it would be transparent. But if this was brought in as a JPEG, this would be white and it wouldn't show through. So I want that transparency. That's why it's important on this clipping mask that it was actually created and saved as again, a TIFF or PNG file to be used. I'm going to take this and click and drag over here and drop it in. And Control T, Command T again on the Mac, and I'm going to resize this. And this is now where you could, do creative things. I put that dead center. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to change the size of that. And so what I'm going to do is hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac. And if I go to a corner node, as an example, notice how it resizes on the center point. If I don't do that and I do this, then I get this. And I go, shoot, I need that in the center. So I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, again, Option on a Mac. And I'm just going to resize it to get the look that I want. Now, you could change the aspect ratio if you want. If I hold the Shift key down along with Alt, I can do this, make it more square, make it more rectangle. I mean, that's all up to you. So maybe I'll just tweak this a little bit like that. Once you got what you wanted, and again, if you change your mind, you can always go back, enter on the keyboard right there. Okay, now let's learn the concept of a clipping mask. What I'm going to do next is, let me grab the clipping mask and close out. We don't need that. And let's go to our image right there. I'm going to take this image now, and again, click and drag to the project tab, drop it in, Control T, Command T on a Mac again. I'm going to resize. It's really big. I want to make sure it's covering the clipping mask that I have right here. So over the top, enter on the keyboard. Now to create a clipping mask, and what it does is a concept, I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, and I'm going to hover between these two layers here. And when I hold that Alt key down, again, Option on a Mac, you're going to see the hand symbol there change to a square with the arrow pointing down. If I click down once on the mouse with my index finger, I have clipped that. If I do it again, click down with my finger, I release the clipping mask. Another way of doing it is go to the top layer here that's above that mask there that you're going to clip on, right mouse click and choose Create Clipping Mask from the drop-down menu. And it does the same thing. If I do a right mouse click again, release clipping mask. So it doesn't matter how you do, but here's what's important. When I do that to create a clipping mask, it's taking that information from that layer, clipping it to the shape that you have here at the bottom. And if I'm on this, if I do Control T, Command T again on a Mac, I can go in there and say, oh, I want to resize this. I can move this around. It's only going to show the content within that shape that was created, thus called a clipping mask. So I want to, let's say, display it right there for my composition and then enter on the keyboard. So hopefully you understand, how a clipping mask works. And again, there's an arrow symbol here in the layers pointing down, visually showing me that that information is clipped to that layer there that has that shape. Look at the edge here, the transparency. Hopefully that's showing up. Again, if that was a JPEG, this would be white. Okay, so important to have that transparency. Okay, now, hey, I'm not done. Let's do some more here. And again, boy, I have such a dry cough. Sorry about that. The darn weather we're having here in Michigan. 75, 80 degrees one day, and it's today, as this recording, is going to be in the high 40s. Crazy weather. Click and drag this, drop it in. And again, with this, I'm going to Control T, Command T on a Mac. I want to make sure this covers the whole thing. And enter on the keyboard to accept that. And I'm going to clip that. So think about this. I'm clipping 2 layers now. So I'm holding the Alt key down. Again, Option on a Mac. Hover between the 2. Clip it. Oh, I can't see nothing. Well, let's do a blending mode. So I'm going to do a blending mode. And this is where, again, you experiment. There's no right or wrong or what you're going to choose. So you might like that. Vivid light, maybe pull the opacity down, or linear light. I'm just going to go with make a decision quickly. I'll just go with overlay right there. Okay, so you can see before, after. So I'm applying that texture as a blending mode to the photograph below, but it's also clipped. Okay, so that's important. Now I can just experiment. I don't like the way that looks. So maybe I'll go over here and choose hue and saturation. And I'm also, if I go over here in the properties panel and adjust that, it's affecting the whole image. I don't want to do that. I want to clip it. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac again, hover between the 2, click down once. And now I can get in there and adjust the color there if I want to change that a little bit based on my design. Maybe you want to pull the saturation down. Maybe you want to pull it up. I mean, it's purely, up to you. This is where you have fun. This is what I'm trying to emphasize. There's no right or wrong here. Just go for it and do what you want to do. Like you might change your mind and say, oh, this clip, right here, Control T, Command T on a Mac, I changed my mind. I'm going to do Alt Shift, and I'm going to make it more of a square. Then enter the keyboard. Oh, I changed my mind. Make up your mind, Steve. Control T again. And now watch if I do the same thing to expand this. Uh-oh, I want to go this far. Now I see these black areas. Well, what did it tell me? Oh, these 2 images probably are not going to be big enough. Or I know this one for sure. I don't think that one will be either. So I'm going to select both, Control T, and I'm going to stretch that out, make that bigger, and remove it in position. Let's make that a little bit bigger. I can use my arrow keys, up and down arrow keys, to reposition it if I want to fine-tune that, and then enter on the keyboard when I'm done. And then overall, if I want to, again, I'm going to the top of my stack. I might do Shift Control Alt E. That's a visible stamp layer. I've talked about that, what that is many times on this channel. It's taking everything I see visibly, consolidating it on a single image at the very top. So maybe I'm going to do another blending mode. Ooh, like screen. Color dodge, that's too intense, but screen, there we go. And then if I like that, add my signature to the bottom right there and export that out. First, you want to save it, right? And then you could export it out as a JPEG or whatever format you need to have as the end result. So Christina, hopefully that explains to you. I know you know a little bit about textures with blending mode, but how a clipping mask works. Hopefully this makes sense for you. And I encourage you to, get some assets together. Doesn't matter what it is. The whole idea is to practice the concept of what I just shared with you and everybody else that's watching this. Hopefully you're learning something, by the way. If you could do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, which is at least once a week, you'll get notified on that. So again, what I'm trying to emphasize is don't get hung up on the images you're using. Pick something to dive in and experiment and get a feel for how this works. Then you can take your time in finding some good assets that, if you're subscribed to Photoshop, you get so many things for free at Adobe Stock. Just that if you start picking too much, it says you're running out of credits for that month and stuff. But there's a lot of free websites out there. Just go to Google or whatever your favorite search engine is, and just search for free overlays for Photoshop, free clipping masks for Photoshop. You'll find websites that you could download, different assets and use. Okay, so with that out of the way, people, let's give this a try. And remember to always work hard at thinking creatively out of the box. And I mean literally out of the box. Till next time, see ya.